Hey everyone, today we found a pretty interesting roadside find, and thankfully today we actually got some good rain. But I don't think this water's due to the rain. I think the Beavers have a culvert there clogged up and it's backing up. There's a swamp in there I see on satellite images backing up in here. So on satellite images, they really help me investigate abandoned buildings before I even go out to the area to look at them. Most abandoned buildings I find on satellite images, I don't give the location or say where they are. I don't say what they are sometimes to avoid people going to them and vandalizing them for the exact reason you're seeing here. This building is severely vandalized. Vandals smashed the cinder blocks. They have burned it to the ground. I've seen vandals, I've explored abandoned buildings before, such as the abandoned prison. The abandoned prison, I'll tell people exactly where it is because it's already vandalized and it's pretty much public knowledge that it exists. If it's not public knowledge, if it's not on the historical society list, I'm not going to tell people where something is if it's in pristine condition because it's just going to lead people to it. I've seen other YouTubers go to a pristine building in the woods or something and tell people where it is, and then a couple years later I'll explore it. It is completely trashed because of that person's video. I'm not gonna say any names. You may know who I'm talking about, but here's an example. Just completely destroyed. But satellite images indicate there's another building back there on the same property, and it's not vandalized. I'm hoping it's because it's overgrown. The vandals just didn't notice it. But we got our boots on. We got to go through a little bit of this flooding. We're gonna go take a look at it, see what's up. So I'm assuming this used to be a gas station or restaurant, but it's in the absolute middle of nowhere right now. Just want to see what's up here. I probably could have driven here, but before you walk, well, I always walk a flood before I drive through it just to make sure it's solid. Sometimes it's a mud hole, but in this case, there's gravel underneath a thin layer of mud. I just want to see what this building is. It's slightly visible from the road, but you wouldn't even have noticed it without Google Maps. It's got a big garage door in there, probably a 12 by 8 foot, it looks like. And it's wide open. I knew it was going to be wide open, and I verified with satellite images that this is the only building. There's no more out there. It's just this and the burnt structure. So we're turning on our flashlights. We're in the middle of nowhere, so I don't think we have to worry about homeless. The inside of it's probably gonna be flooded by the Beavers. I just want to take a peek. There's a chair in here sitting in the water. Ooh, restaurant booths. Look at this. Is that an oven? There's a Pepsi vending machine laying on its side. Maybe a bar. So an old garage. Are they just storing it in here? Or was this actually this? Well, the Beavers have flooded out this abandoned building. In the back of it, you can see the hookup. They had a wood-burning stove. The roof is still dry, perfect condition. Over here was another wood stove. It's leaking around where the flashing would have been. Pretty interesting roadside find. No reason to walk in here and possibly step on nails. I do have my puncture-proof steel soles, but there's no reason to walk in here. Just nasty sitting water. They got this tarp up over the top. So what do you think? Was this just storage? That's what I'm thinking. I don't think this was actually a restaurant. This may have been stuff pulled out of the other building. I think the other building was more than likely the restaurant. And this was a automotive repair shop of some sort. Look at this. These are willow trees. The Beavers' absolute favorite to eat. And I'm just gonna walk around the outside of the building because it looks like there's another appliance that I want to look at. And paint cans. Here's a freezer. It says 7-Up. That thing's really old and rusted. Here's an old fridge. Look at the size of that satellite dish. Oh, absolutely it's Beavers. That is a beaver dam right here. Beavers did that. There's a very fresh cut. Nails sticking up, be cautious. Beavers are even adding nails sticking up to their dam. So be very careful of them. Is this gonna be too deep? It doesn't look like a big dam. But the beavers smeared mud right up against the building, right around the fuel oil tank. That's all beavers doing right there. The beavers definitely are the ones who have flooded this out. But even these little puddles the beavers have created is safety for them. Beavers are very important to the environment, but they do wreak havoc on infrastructure and properties next to them. Now, I almost guarantee this oil tank has not been properly cleaned out. So when you abandon an oil tank, you're supposed to clean it out, which means cutting it open, cleaning it out. Because heating oil is basically diesel fuel. It's just refined a little less, has a higher sulfur content. It would damage a modern diesel engine, especially with the emission systems. Older diesel engines supposedly actually like the high sulfur content. Some people say it helps lubricate them. Appears to be empty, but I almost guarantee there's an oily sludge down at the bottom that'll eventually rust through and get released into the environment. These older tanks, which this looks like a really old one, were thicker. I've been in old abandoned buildings, even known family members who have had oil tanks in their basements from the 1930s or 40s. They're still perfect. And then I've known people to have one from the 90s where the whole bottom of it falls out. You're supposed to replace them every 20 years because oil tanks, well, this one even has pitting going right through it. I'm surprised that's plastic. Usually the float is made out of glass. Even mine at home is made out of glass because I use heating oil to heat. But my oil tank is a 2015, so it's got another 10 years of life before I legally have to replace it. But anyways, they used to build things a lot better. In fact, on my property, there was a 1,000-gallon oil tank underground abandoned from the 70s, back when they used to make the tanks better. So thankfully it didn't leak when I pulled it out of the ground in 2021. And they abandoned it half full. I would have had an environmental nightmare to clean up if that thing had leaked. Okay, it's getting a little deeper, but the ground is solid here. This is engineered ground. So I don't expect any unexpected mud. But wow, look at the beavers sealed around this whole building. And there's a culvert pipe. Pretty interesting. So it's raining today, but we are in a severe drought. So it's nice to see this rain. And this did not fall overnight. The beavers have been saving this up. Beavers are very beneficial to the environment. They save water during drought, and then their empty beaver ponds after drought, which usually ends in flooding, have a place to retain flood waters and fill back up. Beavers build this because this is safety for them. Even though this is very shallow, they can navigate underwater in this and avoid predators. There's more water up here, beaver ponds. None of this probably existed when they built this place. I'm sure the swamp did, but the beavers have drastically expanded it. All right, let's step up onto that rock while being very careful not to flood my boot. I was like an inch away from flooding it. So this looks like maybe an old abandoned lodge, but I see cattails. The whole area behind here is very, very flooded because of the beavers. But yeah, I got lucky. I had an oil tank removed once, a giant underground one illegally abandoned. Only reason I knew it was there is because on the wall of my basement there was a 1,000-gallon gauge. And then I went looking for it, and I had found it, thankfully, without leaking. But we find those environmental ticking time bombs out in these abandoned buildings all the time. Some people might not even realize they have one of those. So if anyone ever has a random set of 2 pipes around a older house, chances are you have an underground tank. I see it all the time sticking out of people's porches. These 2 pipes, they might not know what that means from the past. It means they probably have an abandoned tank, which is going to cost them a lot of money if one of their neighbors ever does a soil test and they find out that's leaking. But here, that tank's empty. It either already bursted its oil and dispersed years ago, or it's just a little bit of sludge. Nothing too concerning. I actually dropped this earlier, right after putting it in my pocket. Good thing I found it. So, interesting explorer. This building didn't mean much of anything. This would have been boring by itself. But the fact that we found the Beavers doing what they're doing here, that made this a lot more exciting. And on the way out of here, I'm going to show you guys a pretty cool church. Just navigating out of this water again. We do see a lot of oil here. Now this could be from that tank. I really don't think it is. You see oils in swamps all the time from rotting plants. Same place any oil comes from. Just rotting stuff in swamps. But that was cool. Beavers did definitely flood this place out. So this property is currently for sale. If anyone buys it, they're gonna have to take care of the beaver issue and clog the culvert pipes and probably honestly raise up all this property to be more level with the road to avoid future issues like this. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day. I thought I would add this to the end of the video. Look at this abandoned church. It's got broken windows. It looks like the roof is leaking. We can't go in it. It looks like it's being maintained or it's on this neighboring house's property. But we're going to admire it from the road. It looks pretty cool. This is out on the dirt roads, and what's interesting is the dirt road I'm on, we just went over this wire in the road which counts vehicles. Every time you drive over one of those rubber hoses in the road, it's counting your axles. It counts the amount of cars and trucks that use a road. It's a traffic study to see if they need to make improvements or add a light or something like that. Never seen one on a dirt road, so that's pretty interesting. Here's another angle of it. Here's another angle from the front of it. At this angle you can really see the damage of the roof. Look at that. Building looks really cool.